So I think we're going to start with grounding meditation. So whether you're just joining us or you've been here all day, witnessing the other speakers, it's just a time to reset, kind of that afternoon time. So I know for me, I would love grounding, and for us. So wherever you are, just coming into an awareness of your space. If you have the opportunity to close your eyes and go inward, please do that. If you're driving or somewhere that's unsafe to do that, just begin to bring your awareness more inward. And first, acknowledging the parts of your body that are coming in contact with what you're sitting on, in contact with the earth. Noticing how your bones are creating a structure for the landscape of your body. How the muscles are clinging to the bone. And how your skin is receiving information from the outside world through temperature and texture. Tuning into the rhythm and pacing of your breath. Noticing the parts of your body that participate in your breath in this moment. And just see if there's any tension or kind of residual energy floating around in the mind, and see if you can anchor it into your breath in this moment. If you feel any particular rising of energy, it may be helpful to exhale through an open mouth, to sort of blow through a straw, directing that energy outward. And we're going to tune into the bottom of our spine, our pelvic floor, the bottom of our pelvis. We're just going to imagine roots growing from the bottom of our spine into the earth, into and through the rock and sediment, reaching further down all the way through to the center of the earth, the core. And starting to just feel the release of that residual energy going down those roots, almost like the earth is welcoming that energy to begin to transform and transmute, because the earth can handle it. And then drawing up any energy from those roots, from the center of the earth, back up the roots into the bottom of your pelvis, into your legs, your feet, into your spine, your torso, drawing that energy into your arms and hands, all the way up to your neck and head. When we get to the top of the head, we're now going to imagine like a lotus flower opening up with 1,000 petals. Just beginning to also connect to the energy above us. So below and above, connecting to this sourced energy. And taking a few deep breaths here, drawing the energy down now into your body. And see if it can come down your throat into your heart center. So the meeting point of both heaven and earth meeting at the heart. Just noticing what's there. There's no right or wrong way to be. However you're feeling in this moment, whether it's curious or tired, exhausted, whether it's sad with the events of the world happening, however you're feeling, just welcome it as a part of your experience. And taking a few more deep breaths here. Maybe tuning into any sounds that you hear, either far away or near you. Tuning into any other sensation or sense, what you taste in your mouth, any smells. And then finally opening your eyes gently, maybe bowing your head, opening your eyes if they were closed, and just taking it in your environment, using the power of your gaze to truly see. If you've been at home or sheltering in place, this is our landscape that we've been in for a couple months now. So truly just taking it in, being present with it. And whether you'd like to stay inward as I speak a little bit, or whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, please do that. So I get a lot of inquiries about my journey, particularly how I became a dance movement therapist and my job now. And so I just wanted to give a background of how not only She Wolf started, but just my journey briefly, because I think it gives a really, it just gives context to the fact that you don't have to be any certain thing to be a dance movement therapist. You don't have to be a dancer. You don't have to be a psychologist. You don't even have to have any sort of particular prerequisites except for what is required, of interest and passion. But the true feeling of being called to this career is what we can't deny. So I hear from a lot of dancers that may have been discouraged by the institutions that they're learning with, that being a professional dancer doesn't have the same job security, or it doesn't have the same kind of security as other careers. And so it's truly a calling and not necessarily something that you just fall into. And why I say that is because this job and this field is not necessarily for the faint of heart. When we get into the body and we start to process these things and process trauma and other things that have been living within us for a long time, it takes experience, it takes courage, it takes vulnerability to be able to do that work ourselves too. So all of this to say that it's never too late to follow your passion, and it's never too late to create something that feels uniquely fit for you. And so my journey kind of highlights that. So I did start as a dancer when I was 10. I started in the studio setting, competition dance. And not until recently, within the past 5 years, did I realize how damaging that was to my own inner child of being witnessed or judged, quite literally judged, from such a young age. So even at that beginning point, I knew that there was something wrong with how I was experiencing that dynamic. So then I went on to college and then discovered modern dance. and some African styles of dance. And there was more of this kind of earth-based organic way of moving. It's not, how can I put my body in a certain position to please someone else or to have a certain level of achievement, right? It's how can I feel authentic within myself? How can I express what's inside that needs to express itself? And so quickly fell in love with modern dance, and also began volunteering at a hospital, a nearby hospital, where I started to see the power of dance and movement with people who were terminally ill or were dying from cancer. And then I started working with people with Parkinson's disease. And that was a very important part of my journey, because I started to see how dance was the method for healing, is the method for healing. And although I wasn't a dance movement therapist at the time, I began to see that seed that was planted around how can this modality itself be the healing, the balm for the wounds that these people have carried for so long. And so looked into dance movement therapy programs, and then went to Columbia. And since graduate school, I've been working in the field in many different capacities. But the first place that I worked seemed to really shape where I am now. And I started working with people, with women and adolescent girls who were suffering from eating disorders, addictive behaviors, mood disorders. And all of that was kind of symptomology or surface level of what I would see deeper as traumatic experiences. And so I would say 90% of the people that I worked with did experience something traumatic, whether it was developmental or a single event. And the common thread with the people that I was privileged enough to work with and witness was actual sexual trauma. So as this being my first job and coming from a very privileged background, this was sort of a rude awakening into the darkness of the world, and how the oppressor, or how perpetrators can assert or aggressively inflict their control and power onto others. And witnessing the process of someone who identifies as a survivor move through that process of healing. And so that was my first exposure to this work, and the process of reclaiming and embodying, perhaps even for the first time, of being safe. What is it like to be safe, or feel that sense of safety in my body where I may not have ever experienced that before? At the same time, going through my own personal journey of what Kamaria just mentioned, as Jungian says, with shadow work. So everything that I have never turned the light on inside my own psyche was coming up at the same time. So that's kind of constant. If you become a therapist, or if you are a therapist, you know that the work is part and parcel to this parallel process, right? So I can't bring my clients into any sort of healing process that I have not experienced myself. So that brought up all of that in me. And noticing this theme around particularly working with women and girls around victimization, around making themselves small, around feeling like they don't deserve or they're not worthy of the type of love or respect in a relationship that is part of being human. So receiving a sort of less than treatment from people in their lives and what they've endured. So what I called that, and afterwards kind of seeing that emerge as the feminine wound, and the imbalance of what does it mean to receive that abuse, right? What is it like to feel like you deserve that or to even endure that? And that was very eye-opening to me in terms of, if someone is the oppressed, then there has to be an oppressor, right? And so through my own research and my own healing, I started to see this historical and generational and even ancestral pattern of the feminine, if you will, that the beauty of it, which is the ability to receive, the ability to embrace ambiguity, the ability to be in the darkness, in the unknown, and how that has been abused and oppressed and suppressed for millennia, right? So we used to really honor the goddess, and then somewhere along the way, the patriarchy started and tried to steal that power, right? So usually these systems start because they see the true power that exists on the other side, and they try to control it and manipulate it out of fear. So that led me to not only acknowledging the wound, but what does that even mean to begin to heal that? And what does that mean to begin to give voice and give breath and give space to those that have been oppressed, that have been marginalized, that have been silenced for many, many years? And I only knew how to do that through movement. And so I first started with me, and I did my own particular practice of creative process, connecting to what I label as the divine feminine, meaning this energy that holds us all. We have both divine feminine and masculine, no matter what body that you're in. And began to share this research with others, started to create more dances. And then this kind of wildfire caught, and more people started to align with this mission. And She Wolf was born out of that. So she denotes the kind of divine mother energy, the divine feminine, the connection to the earth. And then wolf is quite literally the animal of the wolf that represents this wild nature that we have and that we have forgotten about. We have forgotten how to embrace our natural way of being, our true wild nature as humans. And me as myself, I noticed that I even had internalized patriarchy, and I'm still working on dismantling that. Yeah, I'm still working on dismantling white supremacy, patriarchy within my cells, because it's just, I was living and breathing it for so many years. And so this process is cyclical. It's not just one and done. So again, how I facilitate and hold space for others, I also do that for myself and call on guides to help me do that as well. So yeah, so that's the idea, the background of She Wolf itself, and this idea of what is sacred, what is truly worth our energy, and what is very precious to us, and this connection to where we come from, our ancient roots, really honoring the stories that where we come from, so that we can begin to liberate and move forward. But that process is, again, cyclical, and it can take time. And so we first started 2 years ago with an evening length performance. And I was always drawn to the method called performance as therapy. And so I learned this in my training in grad school by my professors then and colleagues now, Chris Larson, Lisa Goldman, and Brandy White were the original creators of performance as therapy. So it's like this practice of using creative process and performance as a form of healing. And so She Wolf started as that. And so I'm going to explain kind of what the stages of performance as therapy is, and then I'm going to guide us through a journey where we can begin to tap into those for ourselves. And it's kind of a snapshot into what happens behind closed doors with the She-Wolf community, what we do, what kind of work we do internally to then bring us to the stage and to then share these stories. I will say that even though this process is therapeutic, what we're doing in She-Wolf is not therapy. We don't have treatment plans. We don't have diagnoses. We're not doing specific interventions for each person. And although we are sharing and processing, it is not, that is not the role that I play. I play more as a director and guide. And if something does come up for a participant, then I guide them towards resources to help them process further in a therapy, in traditional therapy setting. And so I just want to be clear about that scope of practice. Yeah. Okay. So the 4 stages that we work through within the process of performance as therapy, the original 4 that were created from the beginning are request, claim, promise, and execute. So again, that's request, claim, promise, and execute. And so I was very deeply moved by this experience in grad school, and I knew that there was something that I was going to do with this process. And so my first, all of She-Wolf's performances has been organized around this narrative of a healing process, not only for the participants or the dancers to engage in, but also for the audience to follow. Right? So there's this relationship between what are we witnessing as an audience and what are the performers themselves working through, that there is this universality that's created, that maybe if I'm working through something, claiming something as healing, then maybe someone in the audience can also relate and witness that. So the way that not only the macrocosm of the show is set up in those 4 stages, and we've tweaked it a little bit, just in terms of what feels resonant to what we're doing as an organization. It's the macrocosm of the show, and it's also the microcosm of the creative process, right? So the creative process itself can be those 4 stages. So whenever I go into the studio with the intention to create, I go through those 4 stages. And we're going to go through them together. So the way that She-Wolf evolved those 4 phrases, we now have different words, but that same energy. Yeah. So our words that we use are summoning, reclaiming, healing, and thriving. Yeah. Again, summoning, reclaiming, healing, and thriving. And I'm going down a list like that, but it could also go like this. It can go in a spiral, whatever direction works. Yeah. So with summoning, we are asking the questions of what are you calling in? Yeah. Summoning the energy, bringing that towards you. Almost like a request. What requests do you have, or what assistance do you need? You start to notice where there's a discrepancy between my reality and what I want, right? So what are you calling in? What is the summoning? What is the energy that you're summoning in towards yourself? How can you be supported in this summoning? Reclaiming, after we summon it in, how do we take ownership? Right? How do we name, I was a survivor, I am a survivor? What part of your story are you willing to claim and name, right? Bessar van der Kolk says, name it to tame it. And we are naming these aspects of our story. We're naming these aspects of who we are so we can claim it and begin to take ownership. What are you accountable for? Yeah, so once we name something, all this movement around anti-racism, if you are a white person, what are you accountable for during this time? How can you claim to be anti-racist, and how can you hold yourself accountable? What actions are you taking? Yeah, what needs to be recovered or reconciled? So the reason why we say reclaim is because there's this aspect of remembering who we really are. And what I mean by that is this aspect of us that has been suppressed for so long, this wild nature, this connection to the earth, this remembering of our inherent worth as humans. It is a reclaiming, because we already knew it somewhere, somehow we had it, but somewhere it was taken from us. Someone non-consensually took that from us. And so how do we reclaim? What lessons have you gained or learned? Reclaiming those lessons, reclaiming what you've gained, what you've learned in your journey. Healing. What is the process of becoming healthy, whole, or sound again? So you can argue that that entire process is healing, summoning, reclaiming, healing, thriving, right? That's the healing process. But particularly, what is the moment where you feel the healing? What is the process of the process and the moment of becoming more whole, becoming more healthy, or remembering that you already are whole and healthy, right? What has been taken from you that you can begin to put together into your wholeness? What do you need in this healing? How does change show up as a response to a prayer, a request at the beginning, or an action? What is the change? What is the actual moment of change? Then we move into thriving. So what gifts are you ready to share? After this process of healing, we summon the energy, we claim it inside, we claim it externally, we hold ourselves accountable, then we become more whole, we believe that we are worthy. Then from this happy, healthy, holy place, we can thrive in the world and offer ourselves, right? Offer our gifts, offer our passions, offer our unique vibration, our unique set of skills and talents and abilities to offer our community, our families, the world, really. And how are you prosperously and vigorously growing and flourishing? So thriving is not only offering others, but how are you filling your cup and feeling fulfilled in what you do? How can you continue to grow and flourish? Almost like a garden. What are the plants that are really flourishing and blooming? And how can you begin to tend to those other plants that need more sunlight or more water, right? How can we thrive? So I'll pause there, see if there's any questions. And if not, we'll move into an experiential. We do have about a half an hour left, which is great. Just enough time. There's a lot of information, a lot of talking. Okay, I don't see any questions at the moment. All right, so we're going to do, for this experiential, you need paper and a pen and a little bit of space to move. I'll give you a moment to get those materials. Oh, we do have a question. Let's see. Okay, so the question is, you mentioned this is not a therapy and describe it more as, so the question is, if it's not therapy, then what is it? Well, it's creativity. It's creative process. It's community. It's an experience of healing that is more general and inherent in movement. So yes, it is therapeutic, and what that means is that it has benefits of feeling better, but it's not traditional therapy or formal therapy that is a lot more structured and specific to the individual. I hope that answers your question. I can share the scope of practice. I can share the scope of practice that we follow. Okay, another question. Was the name of the request and summoning theory mentioned, or is it your individual work? Okay, so summoning, or the first stage, summoning or requesting, yes, it's what are you calling in? What requests do you have? Or how would you like to be assisted? And how can you be supported? So it's essentially requesting, it's prayer, right? It's prayer, it's a question, it's a wondering, it's how our brain wanders and daydreams. It's that beginning part of our imagination where we wonder. That's the beginning of it. That's the summoning. Thank you for that question. Okay, so we're going to go through this experience just really minimally, or like a mini microcosm again of this process of performance as therapy. We're not going to perform. I'm not going to ask you to turn on your video. Don't worry. This is actually just the creative process part where you can start to engage in this process internally. And then if you want to use it in other ways, please do from there. So we're going to start with summoning. And so the way this is going to work is we're tapping into our intuition. We're tapping into our place of knowing that lives in our bodies and in our nonverbal place in the form of writing. So we're going to write the word. If you have your paper, we're going to write the word summoning at the top of our paper. And when I say go, we're just going to start writing, stream of consciousness writing, answering that question, what am I summoning, or around this word summoning. When I say pause, you're going to pause and you're going to circle the last word that you just wrote, except for the words a or the or it, right? It's a verb or a noun. And then from that word, we're going to move into movement. And same thing, we're going to stream of conscious movement without editing, without judgment, or trying to listen for judgment. And meaning we're not letting judgment drive the car. We're allowing our bodies to drive the car. And move until I say pause, and then we'll continue on from there. Yeah? Okay, if this does not make sense, I promise that it will as we continue. Okay, so we're gonna start with summoning. So the first word, writing at the top of your page, summoning. And I'm actually going to share some music. Taking a few deep breaths, coming back into your space. When you hear the music, then you can begin writing. Summoning, stream of consciousness writing. And pause your writing. We're going to circle the last verb or noun that you just wrote. From that word, we're going to move into movement. So put your pen and paper to the side and begin moving your body. Pause in your movement. Notice what position your body is in. Feeling the thoughts, sensations, emotions. And then we're going to go back to writing from this place. And pause. Circle your last word. And moving from that place in your body. Pausing. Notice thoughts, feelings, sensations, images. Now we're going to switch to claiming. What are you claiming? And continuing the process of stream of consciousness writing. So moving to claiming, yeah. Claiming stream of consciousness, here we go. Naming, how do I take ownership? What am I being accountable for? What needs to be recovered or reconciled? What lessons have I gained or learned? Pause. Circle the last word. And moving into movement. Move that word from that place. Pause. Notice the position your body is in. Any accompanying thoughts, feelings, sensations. Now we're going to move into healing, writing, stream of consciousness, healing. What is the process of becoming healthy, whole, or sound again? What is the moment of healing? What do you need? How does change show up in response to a request or prayer? And pause. Circle the last word. And moving into movement. Pause. Going back to writing. feeling the healing. We're going to do 2 rounds of healing. Continuing to write from the place that your body just paused. And then pause. Circle the last word. And again, go into movement. Just allow your body to respond.
This world was not your own, oh, but somehow you lit upon our path. Turn skyward and listen for the call you, for the call you. You stepped out of skin and into the glow, immeasurable and beauty did thunder.
Pause. Pause the position your body is in. Notice thoughts, feelings, sensations. And now we move on to thriving. Going back to writing and now into thriving. What gifts are you ready to share with yourself, with your family, with your community? How are you prosperous, vigorously growing, and flourishing? circle the last word, the last verb or noun, and go into movement straight away. In the next 30 seconds, we're going to find an ending to this dance. Slowly bringing that energy back to your center. Slowly noticing how you feel. Taking an inventory, thoughts, images, sensations. Maybe taking a few deep breaths. Exhaling through an open mouth. And taking all the time you need to transition to come back. If you'd like to stay in an internal place and continue to journal your experience, please do that. Whatever you need to do to recuperate. So normally that exercise would be a lot longer than just 20 minutes. And that is something that I've used many times in my own creative process, in terms of just developing material and developing new pathways to move. Sometimes when I do just openly move, I fall into the same patterns that my body wants to do, or that I have preferences to ways to move. So the writing and the words provide a different avenue or channel for me to tap into, and different imagery that I wouldn't normally have access to if I was just moving. So it's tapping into a different place in the brain where there is imagery connected in this nonverbal place. Yeah, we're still writing, we're still moving, and it's nonverbal without it becoming super explicit just yet. So it's being in the mystery, allowing myself to be in there. So we have about 5 minutes left. I thought I would take some time to answer any questions here live, or just hear any feedback from how you're feeling and what that was like for you. And then we can go from there. Okay, so we have a question. Curious if I have an Instagram. I do, and I can definitely, Erica will share that information with everyone.
Do you want me to put it in the
and okay, list the processes of the words again. Yes, so we had summoning, reclaiming, healing, and thriving. All of this information in terms of our She-Wolf's programs. So this is part of our Sacred Movement program of being a dancer or participant in this process. It is listed on our website, which is shewolfsacred.org. And all of that kind of breakdown of those stages, phases of healing, stages, however you want to name it, that is also how we break down our shows or our performances for the audience. We have a summoning section, we have a claiming section, a healing section, and a thriving section. Okay. So our second question is, do you do different time limits or go back and forth more often? Yes. So as a facilitator, I'm actually using my intuition. Sometimes I participate by writing and moving also, just like I just did. Sometimes I just hold space and kind of guide, where I say the pause moments, and I guide either folks to go deeper or to pause in a certain place. But I'm using my intuition, and there's not really a frame of reference in terms of how much time. Now, of course, as a therapist, I have more keen kind of observation skills, meaning I'm trained to look for when maybe someone is getting dysregulated. Then I would pause them, right, and notice what's coming up in that moment, because for safety and to allow them to regulate on their own, and to just bring awareness to that moment of what may be coming up for them, and to help them breathe through it. So yes, you're welcome. So I hear it was a great primer for my next session. Oh, my session, which is next. Awesome. Yeah. So also you can do this on your own if you feel really like called to this practice. I'm lovingly calling it streaming, like stream of consciousness, stream of movement. I did do this with my dear friend and colleague, Ashley Fargnoli. And she did this when her work of reconciling between refugees of Bosnia and Herzegovina as a creative process tool. But you can also do this on your own. You can set a timer on your phone or whatever device, and you can say, I'm sitting down for this amount of time and I'm just gonna write. And then when the timer goes off, then I'll pause and I'll go into movement and then keep going back and forth. So there's no real right or wrong way to do it, except for in the fact when you start noticing harm or dysregulation, then we do have to pause. Hope that makes sense.
Does anybody have any other questions for Julie?
Oh, can't hear you. Erica, are you speaking?
Yeah, I think your sound is
Can't
still
hear you.
Your sound is still being shared.
I can see your mouth moving. Oh, thank you. Okay, so someone says, this is a beautiful and powerful experience. Would any chance would you be willing to share your playlist? Sure. Yeah, I just played a couple songs that I have on a playlist of mine. I'd be happy to share that. I think maybe I'll send it to Erica and she can include it in my, oh, I see. She can include it in my information. Okay, I unshared my music.
Can you hear me now?
I still can't hear you though.
That's so weird. Are you
That's
still
so weird?
Yeah. Are you still pinned?
I'm so glad that was powerful for you. Yes, I'll unpin. Okay, I'm unpinned.
Now can you hear me?
And not sharing my music. Oh, you can hear Erica. I can't hear her though.
Oh,
interesting.
Can anybody else hear me?
We can communicate with movements. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can't
right.
hear you at all.
That is so strange. Hold on one second.
So weird. Oh, we have more. Oh, thank you, Candace. Good. I'm glad you guys can hear her. Maybe I'll pass it on. Maybe that's a sign that I should not be talking anymore.
No. Okay, well, you guys can hear me. I wanna thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, I'll share my playlist and other information with Erica, and she can share it with everyone. Thank you for participating and being with me. Yeah, please take care. Bye.